Great to be here with you, Olivia.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You absolutely crushed the women's 24-hour pull-up record, almost 3,000 more
Mm.
than the previous record holder. So that's incredible.
Yeah, like I said, it was going into it. I wasn't even sure I could get the old record, which is 4,081, when I initially started training for it. But training went extremely well, and I just continued to build on the base that I already had, and yeah, managed to, like you say, get a lot more than what I had expected.
What inspired you to go after this record in the first place?
So a big part of the gym, so my husband and I own True Potential Training here in Australia, and a big part of the gym is we encourage people to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone, to take on challenges that make us uncomfortable. And I was looking for something bigger to do, and my husband actually suggested this. And when he initially suggested it, I laughed it off because I just thought that's out of my reach. But then after a little while, I thought about it for a bit, and I thought, well, maybe I'll have a go. I mean, what's the worst that can happen here? I'm going to get stronger no matter what. So I thought I would have a crack.
I love it. Can you describe like the moment like you realized you broke the record, how that felt?
So I broke the record actually during a 12-hour training session, which was about 4 weeks before I did the 24 hours. So it took me about 11 hours to break the 24-hour world record. So I did that initially, and that was a little bit of disbelief, to be honest. Hard to wrap my head around that I could actually achieve that. My initial thought, I had people there and they asked me what I was thinking, and I said, how has no one else done this before I have? So yeah, like I say, I felt very proud, but also, yeah, an element of disbelief and at what I was able to do. Mm.
What was like your mindset like during like the toughest moments of obviously you just crushed the record, but I'm sure there's some moments where you had to be feeling like, it was very difficult.
Yeah, so I had quite a clear plan going into it. Each hour, I started off, I front loaded a lot of my reps, so I was doing higher reps initially, and then every hour or hour and a half, I'd slowly drop down, and my rep ranges would change. And to be honest, it was the first few hours that I found the most difficult because the rep ranges were so much higher, and it got intense quite quickly. I knew that once I got to my next point, so an hour and a half, I knew that when I get to the next or the end of this section, I can drop down my reps. So I constantly had something to look forward to, and so I was constantly looking forward um, to just almost the next little break or the next reprieve. But in saying that, I couldn't look too far ahead because it would just get overwhelming at how much that I needed to do. So it was breaking everything down into just little increments and then attacking it just piece by piece. And that was the only way. I can't imagine getting through it any other way. Would have been overwhelming.
Awesome. So have you always been this strong, or was there like a turning point in your fitness journey where you realized you were getting stronger?
I mean, I've always had a very good base. I've trained and done a lot of sports since I was a very young age. I think the mental strength has definitely come in maybe the past 5 or 6 years, just taking on bigger challenges within the gym. And like I say, a big part of that is the community and the people around me that we all do this together and take on these challenges together. And it's been a gradual build in mental strength to get to the point where, taking on these challenges feels achievable. But physically, it's been something that's been built up probably over the past, 15, 20 years. So I've started with a pretty solid base.
What sports did you play growing up?
I did a lot of athletics. Oh, I did pretty much everything. Swimming, played a bit of softball, soccer, netball, tennis. Just, yeah, most stuff I could get into, I had a go at. I love athletics and soccer were definitely my favorites. Yeah.
Right. What did your training routine look like leading up to the record attempt?
So initially I did, when I decided that I was going to do it, I had 3 months of training. I was doing about 5 days of training initially, and then it was basically me just trying to find where my threshold was, what I could do. So I started out doing 2 or 3 hours of pull-ups to see how many I could do within that time frame, and then we built the program from there. A lot of it was upper body, obviously strengthening up my lats and strengthening up my biceps, my core, and then obviously, so I had strength days, but then I also had endurance days. 24 hours is definitely the long game. So most Saturdays I would put in quite a lot of time, and it started out smaller, like I mentioned, 2, 3 hours, and then it built up to 5, 6, 7 hours over that time. So after about 3 months, I did my first 24-hour attempt, which I got to about 11 hours in and pulled my bicep tendon, my arm, and needed to drop out. And so I ended up needing to take about 2 months off completely, not doing any pull-ups or any upper body stuff to rest my bicep. And then after about 2 months, I got back into training. And my training changed after that. So my training shifted to focus more on recovery. So instead of doing 5 days a week, I started doing 4 days, but 2 of those days I was doing double. So 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the evening. And we did that so that I could have 3 days to focus on recovery. And then we shifted my programming a little bit as well to strengthen up my biceps, but also to really focus on my lats to take some of the pressure off my biceps. So the next time I attempted it, I wouldn't, well, fingers crossed, pull my bicep tendons again because they were taking too much load.
I was just going to ask, how did you balance your strength training with recovery and injury prevention? So you kind of touched on that, but anything you want to add?
Yeah, so the start of all of my sessions, I did prehab stuff, a lot of um, shoulder work, just, light weights, activating all of the right muscles. So my supporting muscles were also working alongside, my main bigger muscles. And that was important just to make sure everything was firing and nothing was taking over or taking too much of a load. Um, a lot of it came down to nutrition, making sure that I was getting enough protein. So I was having about 100, 120 grams daily. Um, and then it was also, making sure that I'm getting enough fluid and water. They were probably the key parts, and sleep obviously as well. But it definitely, my strength significantly improved by actually dropping down how many days that I was doing and increasing my recovery than in the first initial months of training.
Besides the 2 months, was there any other like major setbacks or setbacks during the training?
No, it was all pretty smooth sailing, especially in the last 3 months before my 12-hour attempt. Everything went pretty well. Oh, the only other thing, um, I got sick, so I got a cold, and so that set me back about 3 weeks. But yeah, that was nothing compared to my bicep tendon. Yeah.
Love to hear a little bit more about your nutrition preparation.
So my nutrition, like I say, I was having about 100 to 120 grams of protein, and that was my biggest focus. I was making sure that my carbohydrates as well, I was getting that in, particularly around training. And then my fats just kind of fit in within that. So it was prioritizing protein, carbohydrates, and fats. When it came to the actual record with my nutrition, I was making sure that I was having full meals within the 24 hours. It can be quite easy over, when we're doing endurance events to snack or just eat quite high carb, little bits and pieces as I was going. But I knew so I've done a 24-hour event before with my husband and 3 other members of our gym. We did a 24-hour world record on the assault bike, so the air bike stationary. And I knew from that, I spent a lot of time during that kind of just picking and eating small snacks. But the biggest difference I found was actually having full meals, even though I didn't feel like it. So I brought that within into my 24 hours of doing pull-ups, and that made a huge difference. I was making sure that I was just getting these meals in, making sure that I was getting my fluid in, my electrolytes. Um, so, you know, making sure my salts weren't dropping down too much. And that we all went extremely well until probably about the last 5 hours when I started to feel quite nauseous doing the 24 hours. So I got to about 3 a.m. and I just started to feel really sick. And it's 3 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday morning, and we're there and we're trying to find something to help, you know, an anti-nausea tablet or something, and we just couldn't get our hands on it, and it made it quite difficult for me to make sure that I was getting my nutrition in and getting my fluids in because I just initially I didn't feel like it for most of the 24 hours, but by the time I felt nauseous, it was just even more so. It was just felt difficult to get it in. So, um, yeah, that was difficult, but I can't stress enough how important nutrition is within when you're doing something like a 24-hour endurance challenge and making sure you're getting the fuel and making sure that you're getting the electrolytes and the fluid in because you can't function um, optimally without without fueling yourself correctly.
Absolutely. What about the mental preparation? What could you share about that?
A lot of the mental preparation was done just purely through practice. I was building up how many hours that I was doing within my training. So initially I started with 2 or 3 hours and then I built up to 5, 6, 7. It would just be breaking down those barriers of, you know, I've done 2 hours before, I can do this again, or I've done 3 hours before. So a lot of the mental preparation was uh, literally just training for it. And it was learning within that training to manage my emotions or to manage my thoughts and how I was feeling within it. And so it purely came down to practice, really, and just knowing that going into the 24 hours, I'd done 12 hours before, and so going into it, the first 12 hours, it was territory where I'd been before, and I knew that I could do that 12 hours, and then everything past that was just kind of settling in and falling back onto the practices that I'd had within training mentally. Self-talk and everything was huge, and the community as well. Like we had so many people coming and going and supporting me, and you know different people coming in and would completely change the vibe. It would lift me up, and you know a bit of banter and that sort of thing really helped. Yeah.
Uh, could you share any coaches or mentors that helped you achieve this accomplishment?
So my husband, Michael Vinson, so he is the head coach at our gym, and he it was the one absolutely that was pushing me and believed in me the entire way. So I wouldn't have done this without him, and he did all my programming and everything. So yeah, 100%. A lot of credit goes to him and his support and his belief in me in helping me achieve yeah both the 12 and 24-hour records.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a shift in how people respond to you since you've achieved the record?
Um, I don't know if I shift. So many people around me believed in me anyway. You know, when I initially said that I was going to do it, you know, the people around me believed that I could do it more than I believed that I could do it myself. So, you know, I've got a great community and great people around me initially. So definitely the people closest to me, that hasn't changed. I don't think I've noticed on a broader scale too much. I noticed a very big difference even when I was training for it, telling people that I'm doing 24 hours of pull-ups, and I get two very different responses. And then one response is people get quite excited about it and kind of lean in and ask me more, and other people kind of look at me like I'm a little bit crazy and why on earth would you want to do that? So it was very interesting, yeah, seeing people's responses.
That's awesome. So after you completed, what was like your recovery time period like after you completed the challenge?
So the 3 days after 24 hours of pull-ups, I was pretty sore. But to be honest, my recovery actually, my muscles recovered pretty quickly. After about 3 days, I started to feel, getting back to normal. And then by a week, I was pretty much, I felt alrighty. And I think my central nervous system wasn't quite back to normal, but definitely my muscles and DOMs had gone down definitely after a week. But yeah, mentally and yeah, like I say, my central nervous system, I think needed a little bit more time to recover. And my bicep tendon after that as well was a little bit tender for about 4 weeks. Training, I could feel it slightly. It felt a little bit inflamed, but other than that, I felt pretty good. My hands as well um, held up really well, blister wise. I got maybe a couple of blisters on my thumbs. Other than that, yeah, I managed to strap them. I figured out a way to strap them pretty well and hold off any blisters or tearing, which I was very happy with because it takes on a whole other level of discomfort when you've got that pain in your hands as well.
So do you have any plans, any like new challenges that you have coming up or anything that you're already thinking about, or you're just kind of um, good for now?
I've definitely uh, got some other challenges in mind. I think at the moment, for me, I've spent about 10 months training for this 24-hour record doing pull-ups. So I'm spending a lot of time indoors. And at the moment, I really would like to get outdoors a little bit more. So I've got my eye on doing a bit more running, which is pretty popular at the moment, but a bit of endurance stuff. So I'd like to spend a bit of time getting back into that. I missed the cardio, the metabolic conditioning, and that sort of thing while I was training for pull-ups. So yeah, definitely some more endurance running, I think, is on the cards for me at the moment. There's a quite a cool endurance race here in Australia where you run through Central Australia from Alice Springs to Uluru, which is a 7-day ultra marathon, and that looks pretty amazing and pretty intense. So I've got my eye on that. So we'll see how that goes in the coming months.
Awesome. What advice do you have for someone that's looking to maybe go after a big record or a big challenge like this?
I think the most important thing, if you're going after a very big record or quite a big challenge, would be one, don't discount yourself initially. I mean, that's something that I did, but luckily I had people around me who believed that I could do it. And two, the most important thing is just breaking everything down into little increments and approachable sections. And I can't stress enough just how much that shifts your perspective on whether it's achievable or not, just breaking everything down. And then also finding a great coach, one who believes in you, but two who who knows how to program to get the most out of you. I think, and understands how the body functions um, and recovers as well. I think that's extremely important.
That's some great advice. Great advice. What else? Any last words? Anything else you want to share with us?
Um, I don't think so. Like I say, uh, we discount or write ourselves off so easily when we look at such a big challenge and initially may not believe that it's something that we can do. But I just think we should give ourselves a little bit more credit. While it's not something that we can do right now, it's definitely something that can be worked towards. And who's to say that it can't be something that can be achieved in the future? So yeah, even if you think you're going to fail, just lean into it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. To our listeners, if you found value in this conversation, I know you did, please be sure to subscribe, share, and let us know what you liked best.